listen up. Y'all, it's the queen of automation, Meghan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for complication.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about all things systems, operations, technology, and why all of this stuff is only good when it works. And hopefully you're here with me, your host, Meghan Donnelly, because I help you make it work better. I don't know. We'll go with that. And today is another one of our fabulous coaches. So Becky Henderson is an executive leadership coach. That's how I'm going to introduce her. But she will introduce herself much better. But she is really working with executives to get their mission-driven founders, right? Like that's what we're talking about, mission-driven founders, right? And like really get their minds right. And I love having these conversations because even though I am on the technical side of operations and making sure your business and your systems and all of this stuff is running smoothly, Becky is working on the most important system that everyone has, which is their brain, right? The one that's running everything. Because without that connection to your brain, nothing else is going to fall into a place. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how you do it. If your mind isn't right and you're not in the right headspace, nothing else is going to matter. Tell everybody where you're calling in from. Thank you for being here with us. And let's talk about you. Introduce yourself and tell us what you're working on, because your space is exploding right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm very excited to have you here.
Well, thank you, Meghan. It really is an honor. And I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite some time. Well, since we set it up. And my name is Becky Henderson. I am in Austin, Texas, and I work with mission-driven founders to help them get their desired results faster, but with ease and vitality. Like they're not going to have to sacrifice the rest of their lives for this. And what I focus on with my clients really is that internal operating system, because it's the programming, it's the stuff that we learned. So much of coaching, the way that I coach, there's a lot of unlearning to do. It's getting out the it could be faulty programming, or it could just be outdated, right? It could be it served you really well for a long time, and now it's actually getting in the way. So it's about being able to identify what are those programs, those mindsets that are getting in the way right now. And for most of us, see, it's not the obstacle you can see that's stopping you. It's the one you can't see. Right?
Love that. Right? I'll tell you why I love that, because so one of the things that I've talked about with a lot of different coaches, I love talking to each of you because you all have your own nuance, right? Like you're all doing the same thing or similar things, but just in a little different way. And you each have your own perspective, right? And that's the way it should be, because your personality is going to mesh with people versus other person, But what I love about what you just said, we are programmed from a very early age, from the time you come out of your womb.
Even before.
You are programmed. You are programmed, right? Like under the age of 5 is when you're going to learn the most in your lifetime ever. Mm-hmm. And for some of us, we may be learning the wrong lessons, or we're being taught by someone who, I hate the word narcissist, but like there's all of this stuff that's out there, but you know what? Like your parents aren't perfect, and maybe their lessons are bad, and they're learning from their parents, and the generational, the generation to generation to generation to generation. And so by the time you get to somebody who is a CEO, they're an executive, they're a founder, they're somebody very high up in this world, and they've been programmed incorrectly for so long, someone like yourself comes along and helps them reprogram, and they probably don't even know, because by that point, you don't remember what you learned when you were 4 years old, but it's still there.
Right. What's really interesting is that so much of what gets in our way is the thought, the belief, well, this is just who I am.
Yep.
And what we don't realize is that the majority of who I am got learned. It just got learned at such an early age, we don't remember it.
Yep.
And so it's what feels familiar isn't necessarily true. It just means it's been with you a really, really long time. And so where I work with my clients is at this fundamental level of who I am, because it's being that drives behavior. Most coaches, or I'll say a lot of coaches, look at behavior and let's modify the behavior to get different results. And modifying behavior does get different results. However, if you're not addressing the source of the behavior, your results are it's a house of cards. It is going to crash it at some point. And so what I like to say is you can't do your way into being, because being comes first. It's being drives the doing, which drives the having, the results that you get in life. And so what I have found with, especially with high achievers, so many high achievers are high achievers because they are trying to compensate for who they think they are or aren't. And eventually that catches up with them. Eventually that stops working. Or it may work really well in business, but they're on marriage number 5. Things like that.
Hi, my name's Megan, and I have severe ADHD, and it took me 38 years before I could, just finally, I was like, why am I fighting this? I was diagnosed when I was 16, so, I'm the perfect thing. I would love to, we should actually just do me, because one of the things that we were talking about before we hit record was, you know what, let's give the audience an actual little mini session, or let's show them, give them a checklist of, you're an executive, you're a leader, you're a founder, you need someone in your corner, you want a coach, right? We all heard, we all hear about it. You should have a coach. You should have somebody in your inner circle that's helping you, that you can talk to, and you can break down the barriers, and you can get through all the stuff that's going on in your brain, in your life. How do you do that? How do you even find, if I had met you 10 years ago, it probably would have been much more helpful. But I didn't. So let's start now.
Right.
Because that's exactly what people are dealing with. And all of these people who are being late diagnosed with ADHD and autism and all of this other stuff later on in life, I at least knew when I was 16 that I had it, right? It's how do you deal with all of that stuff, all of the mental stuff?
Right. So Megan, we're going to do a mini coaching session.
Woo!
Right here. Okay.
Love it.
So you got diagnosed at 16 with ADHD. What did you make it mean about you?
What? Rephrase that for me.
Okay. So getting diagnosed at 16, I've now got this label on me, ADHD. What does it mean for you about what's possible or what's not possible? Is there any other label that came along with that? That means I'm...
Yep.
Okay.
No, it was, again, I know now, I'll tell you the difference. Former Meghan, 16-year-old Meghan was screw you parents, you're not putting me on medication, the revolt of, because that's, of course, the first thing that they want to do is they want to medicate you. And we very quickly found out that was never going to work. I'm a huge anti-class 1 narcotic for this type of stuff, because I just don't... Anyway, that's a whole nother episode. We'll do another episode just on that. So...
that is also a conversation I enjoy having.
Yes, so that never happened. We did try it, and then I switched to marijuana. I really did, and that actually helped better. At that point in my life, but of course, you figure I'm in my 40s, so that was a long time ago, and it wasn't, my parents were not accepting of that. So it was a real struggle. It was a real struggle. But until the diagnosis, even back then, I was I don't understand why I can't sit through a 60-minute class like all my friends, in school. I couldn't do it. High school was horrible for me. And then we didn't even really know what ADHD was until the diagnosis happened. So then afterwards, at least there was some clarity there. It didn't necessarily help, because at 16 years old, really, I'm not going to a therapist. I'm not doing that. That makes me weird, right? I don't want to be this weird person and do all this stuff.
Right.
Fast forward to now when I look back, I'm oh, I totally get it. Because it wasn't that I wasn't smart. it wasn't that I wasn't, so that was all the things before I got diagnosed. I was like, well, I must just be stupid because I can't figure out how to sit through a classroom. But I'm doing really well on my tests, and I can't do my homework, but I'm really great at taking tests. And there was just all this weird stuff, and you feel like a bad person. You feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you're not smart enough or not strong enough or not whatever. And so fast forward into my 20s, when I finally figured it out and, got through the rest of my teenage years, I was like, hey, this is really cool, because I figured out how to lean into my hyper focus and lean into things that I got really hyper focused on and what other people would translate into their passions, right? So for me, hyper focus meant dopamine. And dopamine is the thing that ADHD humans, neurodivergent humans, are lacking. And so when I hyper focused, my dopamine levels would go up and I'd get really freaking happy and really fast, and I would just kill it and kick ass at whatever that thing is I was focusing on. And so then it became my career injection, if you will. It was how I was able to get, promoted 3 times in 2 years in corporate. It was how I was able to be a high performer because I was leaning into the things that I was really good at. Now, of course, fast forward, and then 20 years later, it also led to extremely fast burnout, right?
Yeah,
because
so that was the cost.
Right. And that was the cost, right? So I was able to do all these things, but what I wasn't able to do, the social awareness of setting boundaries, which I'm now experiencing even more with my kids because my son is autistic. So it's me times 100. I was really bad at setting my boundaries.
Being okay in who you are. Was that being driven by what you could accomplish and how you could grow and rise in corporate? And what was it like for you outside of corporate settings?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I want to preface this with, for all of you people out there, I know that I am the exception and not the rule, and having kids who are also on the spectrum and neurodiverse and ADHD, and I have 3 teenage boys, so there's a bunch of neurodivergent things going on in our house. I just want to shout out to all of those people. I'm not saying that this is a superpower for everyone. I know I have met people in the past that get really upset when I say it's a superpower, and so I have to reframe it and say it's a superpower for me. Okay? It's a superpower for me because I've figured out how to make it a superpower. Exactly. That doesn't mean that everyone's situation is the same. So I always just like to say that because I don't want to piss anybody off or offend anybody whose ADHD doesn't look like mine, right? Because it's all different. But anyway, to answer your question, yeah, so for me, my ADHD is very controlled by my dopamine, right? And it's very controlled by bursts of energy and bursts of things. So one of the things that I have leaned into and figured out how to do, which is why I can truly say it's a superpower, is I let my brain and my body lead the way. Like yesterday, we were just talking about this before we hit record. I was having allergies. I had a sinus headache. I had all of the things. Okay, I'm an adult, right? Most people would be like, oh, put your big boy pants on and get over that and you can work through that. No, not for me. When I get to a certain point, I know when I wake up in the morning what type of day my brain is going to have. And thank God I have an amazing team because I can literally message them and be like, nope, my brain, it's not happening. I can't do anything technical today. I will be 100% creative. And it's just the way my brain works. And I think it's just because I've programmed myself to listen to my brain and my body and not to push it, because I pushed it in corporate. And so, yes, to your point, the success, the accolades, the promotions, all of that stuff was giving me those bursts of dopamine, but then dopamine was making me, and then it was really high and really low, and then the lows were really low, the depression, and then the highs, and well, fuck that, I'm not doing that anymore, right? That was not a good place. I work best and live best when I'm kind of as even as possible. Because when you're going through really big highs and really big lows, it's nearly impossible to function. So now my brain leads the way. My body leads the way. If
Mhm.
I wake up on a Tuesday morning and I can just tell, like I can just tell my body is not happening it. I tell my brain's not even going to be able to focus or function. And nope. And so then I take time off. I go for a walk. I go to a coffee shop. I
Mhm.
literally just don't work. I go see my daughter. I don't like it, I don't do anything that's going to push it, because if I push it, that's when the burnout stuff starts to happen. Now that doesn't mean some days it's a full day. Some days it's 3 hours. Some days it's 6 hours, right? Like the thing that I think people miss, and I'm sure you see a lot of this. And now, first of all, I'm talking about this like it's really easy, right? Like I've just fallen into this. Oh no, this took like 35 years for me to get to this point, right? Like this was not like I woke up one day and I was like, my brain's gonna no. This was like, and then for the first couple of years when I was like, I just have to, my health, my brain, this has to be the leader, the driver. For the first couple of years, I felt really bad. Like I was like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not living up to my performance. I'm not hustling like I used to. I'm not doing all the things. And I was like, what is wrong with me, right? So there was a huge low. But now, like you said, I'm very comfortable because now I know that, sure, I might have a 24-hour period where I'm not at my desk. And this is where technology comes in. Operations and systems have been the most amazing partner for me. And this is why I have this podcast. This is why I talk to people about it. Because you know what? When my brain decides to take a day off, my body decides it's not working today, my business keeps running.
Right.
It keeps going.
You have a system in place. You know, Meghan, the thing that I'm hearing and seeing, and this is the first conversation you and I have ever had.
Yes, it has. That's what makes this perfect for the audience.
And so what I'm hearing and seeing is that you have been on a journey of what I would call getting back in touch with how whole and complete you already are. See, for most of us, there is this it could be one event, it could be a series of events, but somewhere young, somewhere between the age of 5 and 10, for most of us, there is some sort of event that communicates to us, something's wrong with me. And that's when we begin to compensate. Well, if I earn better grades, then I'll get the love from mom and dad, that, or the approval. Or if I win at sports, then I'll get, and so we develop these. It's all coping strategies, and so some of the most accomplished, successful people are still trying to compensate for feeling like a loser on the inside. And when that's the case, you can't put it down. You can't put it away. I mean, you keep doing the things that will bring you that dopamine hit, that sense of satisfaction, that sense of being okay. And the shift, like how I work with my clients, is showing them how they can actually generate that sense of being okay in and of themselves. If who I am is always okay, it doesn't matter what happens out here. Like I can win all the awards in the world and it doesn't make me feel better about me. I could lose everything and it doesn't make me feel worse about me, because who I am, my relationship with me, is actually independent of the conditions and the circumstances. Now, I'm not saying it's not great to be successful, but what you're doing is the shift is, this is how I like to put it, is that success or even happiness or peace of mind, it's not a place to get to. It's a place to come from. I bring success to my conditions. I bring peace. I bring happiness and joy. I bring love to my relationship, rather than attempting to just extract it from the relationship to feed the bottomless pit because I'm not already loving myself.
I love this. You want to know why I love this? So what I have now been saying for the last couple of years, again, and it's so crazy because I am an ops person, right? So people in the Queen of Automation, so people just automatically assume it's all about software and technology. I'm going to tell you something right now. This is what we've been telling people for the last 2 years now. You're not building a career in a business. You're building a lifestyle. Okay. Lifestyle comes before everything. If you are building yourself, that, of course, this comes along with building whatever your business you're working on. You're a founder, you're executive. Awesome. That's great. Good for you. But if you're building something that makes you miserable, what the heck? Why? All of my goals now, revenue included, right? Like, because we have business goals, right? Like, we do this thing because we actually want to make money off of it, right? Like, you're not here to just eat ramen noodles for the rest of your life and like be poor, and because that's not something we want to do either. But if you're building something where you're just basically changed to something that you hate, that's not helpful either. So all of my goals now, revenue included, right? Like, it's all based on, I want to buy a beach home so I can be a snowbird. I want to do this. I want to do this. And people laugh at me because they're like, well, that's not, I'm like, yeah, it is. Because I want to buy a beach home. And if I pick where it is, it's an island, it's in Florida, it's in Texas, wherever the frick I pick, doesn't matter. Once I know that, once I know how much I want to spend, once I know like all the things, I then can I have a dollar amount, and now I'm going to reverse engineer, okay, what do I have to do to get to that number goal?
Exactly.
You're building a lifestyle. Everything that you do, even if it's a business, you're still building that business. Like, why do you need to grow 10% this year? What's the purpose? Is it cost of living? Is it just because it's 10% more than last year? By the way, that's not an answer. That's a stupid answer. You're building towards something. You're Mr. CEO. You're Mr. Executive. You're making $600,000 a year, upwards of $1 million a year. Why? What are you doing with it? Do you need $1 million to live? Or is that just the number that you have set in your head? And so once I got through and figured out all of this stuff, like, oh, because before I was chasing the numbers, I was chasing the career. I needed to be a COO. I needed to be a CMO. So I'm going to rise in the corporate ladder and I'm going to do all this stuff. Why? So it was that moment of, in my early 30s, I had 4 kids, right? I never saw any of my kids because I was working corporate all the time. And I was never present for my family. Always brought my laptop on vacation with me. For what? For what purpose? Just so I could bring home a paycheck? If you're working for the paycheck, you're working for the wrong reason. I don't care if you work for yourself or you work for somebody else. That's not the point. It has to, you have to have some sort of goal, life goal, right?
What you're describing, Meghan, is the difference between survival and full aliveness. Okay, if you're just working for the paycheck, if you're working to survive, I have not met one founder who is okay with mere survival. Now, there can be moments, there can be seasons of life when crisis hits, and that capacity to survive is very helpful.
Of course, we all have that.
But even in the brain, the part of the brain responsible for survival and the part of the brain responsible for intentionality and creativity, they are separate geographies. They are separate zones. And so as long as you are living in survival, you're not accessing the higher order, creative, what else is possible type of thinking. And I know particularly for founders, for the men and women that I work with, to be in a state of survival is absolutely excruciating because of this passion, this purpose, this mission to create more, and not more just for the sake of more, but they have this clarity that they are here to contribute to mankind, to the planet,
to a higher something. Yep.
Exactly. And whenever they are in a survival place, it actually inhibits their capacity to create.
So I want to piggyback off of that and go back a little bit, because I want people to understand that I am not saying this from an place of ego at all. Okay. I have an extremely unique brain, and I understand that. I am a creative, but I'm also technical. This is why they call me a unicorn, because I'm using both sides of my brain really, really well. Right. And I know that is a unique thing. Again, I'm not saying this from an ego standpoint. And it actually took me a really long time for me to talk about it. And for other people who are like mentors of mine and people who are in my inner circle to be like, you need to talk about this, because the way that your brain works is very unique, but this also is why I call this my superpower and the reason that I am able to let my brain and body lead. Because a lot of what happens, I don't have a lot of necessarily burnout moments anymore where, now they say that, knock on wood, where I like wake up and I take a 24-hour off. Like that doesn't happen as much anymore. But what does happen is I wake up knowing I cannot be technical today, but I can be creative. So I'm going to go design a website. I'm going to go write some copy. I'm going to go like be creative and use the creative side of my brain and be a creator. And then other days I'll be like, ugh, nope. I'm going to go and build workflows and automations, and I'm going to jump in there. I'm going to get in the weed, and I'm going to build a technical strategy for an operations for a sales company, like whatever. So that's truly been the reason that I'm able to now kind of let my brain and body lead the way, because I have both sides of my brain really, and I know that that is very unique, and I know that I'm very lucky. And so that's kind of what I wanted to tell people. I am lucky as shit. When I left corporate America, everyone says things like, "Oh, you must have worked your," you know, yeah, I got really lucky. I was sitting just under the executive suite when I left. And so when I left and I started my own thing and I decided I wasn't going back, I had people, I had CTOs, I had CMOs, I had people that were higher up in all of these different organizations that knew I left and knew they were able to contract with me and wanted to work with me, right? So this is not like I didn't become this overnight success because I just really got lucky. I mean, I worked my ass off in my 20s in corporate. And yeah, maybe my corporate journey didn't end up the way I wanted it to. But if I hadn't put those years in and I had not struggled through that and realized that I didn't want to be there, I would not be here. So I really want everyone to think about this. And I'm sure you tell everyone this just from listening to you talk and how you talk about the past. Your past is going to shape your future. So if you're doing something right now that maybe isn't the most wonderful thing in the world that you're doing, you don't really like it, you want to change. But wherever you're hustling right now is going to make future you better, right? Like it's going to, because you're going to be able to find somebody like Becky, go find a coach and talk to them about why you're miserable, talk to them about where you want to be, and then get some guidance on how to get there. But what I get really upset about was when I listen to people talk about how horrible their past is and they don't realize that that shapes who they are right now.
So the distinction that I like to make about the past is that you can be informed by the past without being constrained by it. There's a great philosopher. I don't know if you're familiar with Alan Watts. Have you heard of him?
No.
And he started out as an Episcopal priest, I believe, and then eventually started exploring a lot of Asian, Eastern thought, Buddhism, Hinduism, and really moved more into philosophy. And I love one of his metaphors is that the wake doesn't drive the boat.
I love that.
Yeah, all the wake does is it shows you where you've come from, where you've been. It has no capacity to determine where you go next.
None.
And so you get to decide. Are you going to let the wake determine where you go next, or are you going to get into the driver's seat of the boat of your life? Are you going to make that decision? And so leverage the past, leverage the hell out of the past, like take everything that it has given you and developed in you, use it, but you don't have to be constrained by it. You're only constrained by it to the degree that you say you are.
I love using it to shape the things I never want to do again. So one of the other things that I always tell everybody, and they laugh when people laugh at me when I say this stuff, and it's great because that's fine. It gives me more conversations to have. I tell people, stop working on the stuff you hate, and they're like, oh,
absolutely,
that's easier said than done. No, it's super easy. If you hate something, like you actually loathe the physical thing in your business and or life, and it's something that you always have to work on because you need it for the business, but you hate it, I guarantee you will make more money if you outsource it or automate it. People then the objection is, well, I don't have money to outsource. Okay, but what's costing you 10, 15, 20 hours because you're going to procrastinate and you're going to work on that thing that you hate last. And it's going to take you forever to finish it because you absolutely hate it.
Yep.
If you spend the money that you don't have on outsourcing and it gets done within the allotted 15, 20 minutes, whatever the thing is. A lot of this happens with admin tasks because they hate admin work, right? If you outsource, I'm telling you, you're going to get back time, which is the only thing we can't get back. And it is money. Yes. Like people, I know how cliche it is, but time is money. If you're spending time on shit that you hate and it's taking you twice as long to do it, that's dumb. Just go anyway, so I talk about that a lot with people. And I know it's a mindset thing. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this because I'm probably not as nice as you are in my approach. I'm like, stop doing that. Why are you being stupid?
I'm not nice.
Off and push people over the edge.
Don't be nice. Don't ever be nice. That actually doesn't serve anyone but your own smallness.
Yes. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that because because I know this is probably some of this stuff is overlapping. And this is why I love executive leadership coaches and people that are dealing with these next level high achievers, because a lot of the stuff that I talk about is the same thing, but I would be a horrible coach because I have no empathy for and I'll be, why are you doing that? That's dumb. Just stop doing that. And they'd look at me like, well, that's not helpful.
Well, some coaches coach that way, quite frankly. Okay, so to speak to what you just said, so who someone is being shows up in language. And when I hear someone say, well, I don't have the money for that, okay, what that says to me is they do not see themselves as a creator. Because if they saw themselves as a creator, their language would not be, oh, I don't have the money for that. Their language would be, how can I go create the money for that?
Bingo. So everyone, I want you to listen, even just rewind a little scrub, play it back again to what she just said, because this is something that my business partners and I talk about all the time, but I'm going to say it here. I say it all the time. I mean, I literally repeat the same things over and over again because I want you guys to pay attention. You can always make more money. You can't make more time. Okay, I'm going to say this again. You can always make more money. You can't make more time. You know what? It might mean if you're early in your career and it's just not whatever the thing that you're focusing on, your passion. Yeah, maybe you got to go get a coffee shop job or you have to drive Uber or whatever, but you can always make more money. Go sell more. Go talk to more people. Go have more conversations about the thing that you're trying to build. But once the time is gone, the time is gone.
So Meghan, one of the core tenets in my coaching practice is being unreasonable, which means to give up the reasons, aka excuses, that are holding you back. Well, they're not holding you back. You use them as an excuse to play small, to stop, to not move forward. And so in life, you will either create what you want, or you'll create a bunch of reasons why you didn't. And so you have to get clear on who I am is a creator, is a powerful creator. And if something is missing in my life, then I will be responsible to create it. I will be responsible to bring into existence the thing that doesn't yet exist. Yes. And that's in every area of life. That's in your health. That's in your loving relationships, your family, at home, your community. That's in your business. It's with your clients. You don't have enough clients? Go create some. Well, how do I create it? Here's the thing. People say, how do I create it? Right? How do I create it? Well,
conversations. Sorry.
Well, yeah, there is that. But fundamentally, you create something by creating it. And that sounds circular. I know it. But
it's 100% true.
But yes, but how did you learn how to ride a bike? By riding the bike. You didn't. I mean, people don't read books. You know, it was Van Gogh who said, "I do the thing I don't know how to do, so I can learn how to do it." So if you don't yet know how to create more of what you want, you basically have to get in motion with it, and you will sort it out. You're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way.
I always ask people, well, how many conversations did you have about the thing you're trying to create? How many today? Just today.
Yeah.
And I always try to talk to people in smaller bursts, right? Because most people can't project or can't forecast 3 years, 5 years, right? So you have to at least, especially with technology in this kind of stuff, I find if I compound it down to a smaller, just today or just this week or just this month, I get better results when talking to these people. And I'll say something like, well, how many conversations did you have today? Not this week, not this month, just today about the thing that you're trying to create. Oh, well, I'm like, so you didn't talk to anybody today? Well, that's why nobody knows who you are. Every single day, rinse, recycle, repeat. Your family is going to hate you. If you are a builder, you're a CEO and you're an executive and you're in startup mode and you're just building this thing, your family and your friends are going to hate you because all you're going to talk about is the thing that you're building. But you know what? They're going to tell their friends and they're going to tell their friends. And then you're on this thing that we all like to call LinkedIn, and they're talk about the thing over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Well, so it goes back to, so when someone is building something that they genuinely see this is of service, and they see themselves as being of service, that generates a certain kind of conversation. But when I see myself as a burden, as taking, as needy, that creates a very different conversation, or maybe a lack of conversations. And so there's so much about how we, not only how we see a situation, but how we see ourselves, that then determines what's the course of action we're going to take or not take. And so I can tell a lot about a client based on how they speak and the action that they're taking or not taking. It shows me exactly what are they committed to, how they see themselves. And it's not rocket science. I've just been trained in what to look for and what to listen for.
I completely agree. And I think people, do you find, and here's a great question, and because I'm always curious, and I know I've asked others this question too, but other coaches, I should say, leadership coaches, when you're coaching at this executive, do you find a lot of resistance from high performing executives in even needing or wanting a coach because they already think that they're there, right? Because unfortunately there's a lot of ego up there sometimes, and I find that those are the people that need you the most. Because they can't get rid of that. So that ego of where they're supposed to be.
I would say there are two camps of leaders when it comes to how they view coaching. There's one camp of leaders that believes coaching is about fixing something that's wrong. And a lot of those leaders are very resistant to it. There's nothing wrong with me. Why do I need a coach?
True. Right. Because they don't see it. Yeah. Or they don't feel it.
Yeah. Because they don't see what is off, with them. And then the other camp of leaders, they see coaching as a mechanism for continual growth and development. It's not that high performers in sports get coaches because they're so successful. No, high performers in sports are successful because they got coaches, and so those are the two biggest differentiators. The clients that end up hiring me, they're the ones that want to grow and use it as a developmental tool.
I think that every executive needs a coach, even if it just starts out where they just have somebody to vent to. It's super lonely. It is super lonely at the top. Even if you're working for somebody else and you're running your own company or you're running your own your own founder, it is extremely lonely. So if you don't have an inner circle right now, go out and get a coach and pay that coach to be your inner circle. Even if it's just starting out where you're just venting to them about what's happening, just getting the crap off your chest and off your brain and out of your mind to somebody else that can listen and talk through it with you is so helpful.
Yeah.
It's so helpful. And I don't think that people realize the loneliness until they actually meet someone like yourself and they're actually having their conversations and they realize how helpful it is. Like it's a real deal. Like, especially since COVID, and I hate using that as an excuse, right? It's not an excuse anymore. It's a thing. It happened. Now you have to move on. If you're still feeling the stress of being alone by yourself in your office, you have to go out. It's like you just said, you have to go out. Just like you have to go out and make more money and have more conversations, you have to go out and find your inner circle. Find your people.
Yep.
Get people to talk to.
Meghan, most people don't know how to listen. It's not something, we don't get taught how to listen like we get taught math and reading and things like that, in school. I think it should be like required curriculum. But for most, we don't have the skill set. Most of us don't. And so because most of us don't know how to listen, most of us have not experienced the power of being truly listened to and what happens with that. There's a scripture in the Old Testament. I think it's one of the Proverbs where it talks about how the wisdom of drawing out the deep wells of a man's heart. That a man it's deep waters. That's what it is. Deep waters, and wise is the one that can draw that out. That's what happens with a skilled, powerful listener. The listening actually draws something out of you that wouldn't have come out without it. And it's in theory, it's hard to really understand what that is, but getting a taste of it, getting an experience with it, it'll change your life.
And it's funny because the other thing too is, right, like people go and like, Tony Robbins and all these people that they're listening to, right? They go and they spend all this money, boatloads of money to listen to these people. And they might sit there and listen, but then all of the actions that they're supposed to take afterwards, they don't do. And then they complain and they say, oh, well, that didn't work. That coach, that person isn't. And they put the excuse or the onus back on the coach or back on the person that they're listening to. Then you didn't actually listen, because most coaches who are doing your job, they're giving you homework. They're giving you action items. They are giving you, even if it's go take a walk and think about, like, they're still giving you physical action items and physical things that you should be doing so that then the next people listen, quote unquote, but then don't action. And so it's like you heard the words, but you didn't really listen, because if you had actually heard what this person just told you, here's all the 10 things that you should have done. Right? So and that's the part that's crazy to me.
Here's what's going on with that. I can tell you 100% of what you are committed to by your action. So if you're not doing it, what that says to me is you haven't generated a sincere commitment for it. So you can listen to guidance all day long, but if you're not putting it into action, it's because you haven't generated a real commitment to doing it. Because the moment you commit to it, it shapes how you show up with that thing. So I can, even in hiring a coach, and I've seen this. So I have particularly high fees for a reason. It's because it filters out the non-committed. If you're going to work with me, you have to generate a sincere commitment for that. Now, with that said, there are some people who will pay the high fee and still not generate a sincere commitment. And that's, well, in my work, I can only coach commitment. I can't force you to do something you're not committed to. What I do is, based upon your commitment, if anything's getting in the way of that, that's what gets coached. Right? Something comes up that gets in your way from doing the thing you said you were going to do. That's where we're going to do our coaching. But if the commitment isn't there in the first place, there's nothing to coach.
Yes. Everybody listen to that again. Say it again. If the commitment isn't there in the first place, there's nothing left to coach. It's as simple as that. So show up. I think that's a great place to stop, because this has been such a fantastic conversation. I want everybody to listen to this episode and then listen to it again, because we really broke down a lot of interesting stuff. You guys all learned a bunch of weird, crazy stuff about me too. Yay. But I want Becky, I want you to tell everybody where they can find you, the best place to reach out to you if they want to get in touch, talk about coaching, or just even see what you're doing these days. LinkedIn is great. She has great content on LinkedIn, so for sure go check her out there. We'll drop the link in the show notes so that you guys can just one click over to see her content. Is there anywhere else that's a great place for them to reach out if they want to talk to you?
Yeah, so specifically, I have more information. A lot of the content that I put on LinkedIn, it goes into much more in-depth on my website. I publish a newsletter every week called The Grip, and it's about taking hold of the plenteous life. The name of my coaching company,
I love the name.
It is The Plenteous Life, and it's all about creating a life of more than enough, nothing missing, and never too much. It's not about survival. It's about going beyond survival, having more than what you want, and being able to create whatever's missing in your life. So you can find out more information about how I work and what that coaching looks like there at plenteouslife.com.
Okay, we'll drop that in the show notes too. For sure.
And then if you're interested, I wrote a book at the end of 23 called Intentional, and it is 52 maxims of conscious choosing. So it's about making one new choice over the course of a year, one new choice a week. And so that is, you can find that on Amazon and then on LinkedIn. Those are the main places where you'll find me. I'm on some other social platforms slightly. I don't have a whole lot of presence in the other places, but if you'd like to have a conversation, and I love when people engage on the LinkedIn posts because it makes the conversation so much richer. So I'd love to see you over there.
It really does. It really does. So that's a wrap, everybody. I want you guys to go out and find Becky, check out her content, visit her website. I'm certainly going to go and check out the book because that's really exciting to me. The one choice a week thing. I've been really into that kind of, because journaling is a lot for me. I can't quite get, my ADHD is like journaling. I really want to journal. And so I'm like trying it, and it's not bringing me joy, and I'm like beginning to hate it, so I'm not doing it. Anyway, that's a whole nother journey for a whole nother episode. So I like the idea of the one thing a week though. So I'm going to go check that out and see if that is different, because, progressionally changing is a really good thing, and we can all grow and learn from each other. All right, everybody.
Okay.
Ops, technology, AI, all of the things, mindset, your mind is the best operating system, and you need to keep it healthy and happy. So that's a wrap, and we will see everybody next week. And thank you so much, Becky, for being here. This is a fantastic conversation.
Thank you. It's been a joy.
It's been a joy.